Hello, hello, hello. I'm just going to wait for some people to come in. If you are in chat already, do feel free to say hello or maybe start thinking of some questions if you want. And I will just give it about a minute. All right, I'm just going to get started. So, hello everyone. My name is Fitz. My pronouns are they, them. I will be your host for today's room. Welcome to the Video Game Creators Panel. I'd like to begin by gratefully acknowledging that Science World is located on the traditional and unceded land of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh nations. We will start today with a quick introduction from our group of mentors, followed by a hosted discussion. If you have any questions, like I said, feel free to pop those into the chat at any time. So you can do it right now, you can do it later, as you think of them. Our technician today is Samantha, who will be monitoring the chat. If you're having any tech issues, she'll be happy to assist. We do ask that you keep comments in the chat and the question section just respectful and relevant to the discussion, please. So now it is time to meet our mentors. We'll go around, do a brief introduction, and then we'll jump into the questions. Mentors, if you could just turn on your cameras, you'll be brought up on screen. Awesome. So, as we do introductions, just your name, your job title, and the thing you love most about your career. So we will just start with Aura in the top corner here. Oh, sorry.
Sorry about that. Hi, everyone. Nice to see you all here. My name is Aura, and I'm a video game programmer. Right now, I'm working at EA as development support. Sorry, what was the other question?
What you like most about your job?
What I like most about my job is to be able to work on games before they release. So that's really cool.
So, Danny, you can go next.
Awesome, thanks, Fitz. Hi everyone, I'm Danny. I use they them pronouns. I'm currently a lead quest designer at Kabam. Favorite thing about my job is I love working in the industry. I love working on games and I love making diverse projects and media to put out into the world to entice people. I think it's really important that there's good representation in games, and I love being a part of that.
Awesome, thank you. So, Sabrina, you can.
Yeah, hello everyone. Thank you for having me. My name is Sabrina Gomez. I'm one of the co-founders of Ripple Studios. And my favorite part of my job is that we get to create games to inspire kids to consider careers in STEM. So they're educational video games, and we are inspiring the next generation of STEM professionals.
Awesome. Okay, thank you guys so much. Like I mentioned, we'll do questions now. Any that you have, please do feel free to pop those into the chat. But I will get started with hopefully pretty easy one. What sort of first inspired you to get into the video game industry? We can go in the same order again. So, Aura, if you want to go first.
Sure. Something that really inspired me to get into the video game industry was actually reading Ready Player One. And the character, he didn't have like a good childhood, and he wasn't able to study as well as he could. But something that really helped him were video games, educational video games. So that's something that really inspired me. You know, if you cannot be the change, then help somebody be that change. So that was my inspiration.
Amazing. Danny, if you want to go.
Yeah. Well, I grew up playing video games with my dad. It was a really good way to bond with him when I was younger. And as we had like a bit of a falling out when I was um, in high school, so video games were that comfort thing for me. And I really found my group of people when I was playing video games, and it really inspired me to want to create that space for other people out there. So I decided to pursue that career based off of my personal feelings when I would play games. And yeah, it's really, really nice to be a part of that.
Awesome. So, Sabrina, you can go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, so no, good. Um, what inspires me here is that my co-founder Mallory and I, who also was a mentor here the last time we were for video game creators, was that we wanted to inspire more kids to go into STEM. We want to increase the pipeline of women and young girls going into STEM fields. So we determined and we found out through our research that video games are really fun, engaging way to learn, do new things, bond with other people when you're playing with other people, and create cool stuff. And what a was that's for us the best way to show STEM fields, careers, concept, and educational content to young kids to through video games.
Awesome. Um, so pivoting a bit, I guess considering sort of the demographic here, younger girls, what advice, can be short, can be long. What advice would you give people who are sort of looking to get into making video games or get into the video game industry? If you just want to do the same order again.
I would totally recommend them to join any game jam, for example, any small opportunity they have to just get them to create and see which branches it like, because there are a lot. There's programming, there's like music, design, art, animation. So if you can get yourself into any workshop or something like that, that's gonna help you so much to see if you like it and which path might be the right one for you.
Yeah, I definitely want to just agree with what Aura is saying. That's definitely like one of the best ways to get into games is join other people. But first places to start is like watching tutorials on YouTube, trying to really figure out what type of platform you'd like to work in. Game Maker is a really friendly and accessible um, game engine for a lot of beginners to learn in, and once you get more experienced, Unity is a really great engine as well to make games in. So I'd really encourage looking into both of those. And yeah, like there's a lot of really good Discord communities out there that really want to support women getting into the industry. So I really recommend trying to find some. We actually have one here that Aura and I are both in that is called Diversity in Games, and we always are loving to have new people join, and um, we really celebrate trying to get new people into the industry and trying to retain folks in the industry as well.
If you want to drop the invite link to that Discord just in the
Sure.
chat, I think
Yeah,
Samantha can then put it in the public chat. So
sure.
that's a
Let me
really
do
great
that.
resource there. Sabrina, you can go ahead.
Yeah, for sure. If you're into games and you're curious about how to create games, I agree with it. With Aura and Danny said, just there's so many workshops out there that are welcoming, engaging, and also safe for everyone to join, to learn about video games, workshops, and programming. And you can even go as use YouTube. You don't have to go too far outside of your home. It's YouTube. They're free and they're available. And you can do anything that you set your mind to do. So if you really want to do it, you'll find a way and you'll get it done.
Yeah, so you've already touched on this now, but I sort of expanding on it. What other resources can you think of that you would really recommend for people? They can be beginners, they can be maybe a bit more intermediate, just sort of accessible stuff. If there's any more resources that you recommend there, if you just want to go in the same order again.
Any other resources? I think that yeah, YouTube is definitely a very good one because you also don't need to pay anything. I think that sometimes searching for a course that you need to pay or something can be a little bit deceivious, and you need to know what you're looking for. So if you're really just getting started, yes, get a little bit wrapped up with what is video games and some of that. And then if you want something more specific, then you could find any course online that it's about that.
Yeah, for me, I also, when I was in high school, there was also coding classes that were offered. I don't know if that's a thing that's offered anymore, but I would hope so. I remember my first introduction to that was doing HTML, so like making websites and whatnot. So if your school has a course like that, I highly recommend looking into that. It's a really good introduction into learning how to make program simple things, and it will show you like, do you want to actually do programming? Not everybody wants to, but there are so many other paths in the games industry outside of that too. So that's like a really good thing to look into. If you're interested in being like an artist, there's a lot of really good 3D modeling stuff out there. Maya and Blender are really good, and they have a lot of really good tutorials on YouTube. And as Aura said, there's also other places to find stuff like that. Like Udemy has courses. Sometimes they're free as well, or they're very affordable. Those are really good places to look for that type of stuff too. If you're interested in other areas of the industry like game design, that becomes a little bit more complicated because there really isn't a specific program um, that's free or accessible that really introduces you to that. But there's a lot of people that write blog posts and just articles and whatnot. If you're interested to know more about what game designers actually do, I would just really recommend reading into that and just checking out stuff on YouTube. I don't really have a specific person to recommend, but yeah, just try googling that. And I'm a game designer. I'm always happy to talk to people if they're ever interested in pursuing that as a career. So I can pop my LinkedIn in here as well if you ever want to reach out to me
Sure,
there.
sure. Sabrina, you can go ahead.
Yeah, for sure. So, those coding classes are fantastic ideas. There are so many out there available. I believe there are more and more every day to get more kids into coding and development and programming as well. So, there are so many organizations that offer these workshops for free. Also, I would suggest to join game jams like Gamerella. They offer workshops and they also offer game jams for everyone who's never had an opportunity or a chance to develop or create a game for it, or everyone is like a first time developer. So those are really fun. There's a lot of people from the industry and mentors that will help you and guide you throughout the way when you're doing your first game. And it's a great way to learn about the industry, game development, and also getting to meet other people with the same interests.
Yeah, so again, you're way ahead of me. You've already sort of touched on this, but coding games and just programming in general can seem like really daunting to some people, or maybe it's just not the path that they want to go down. And there's so many other opportunities that you can have in sort of the video game world. Are there maybe any that one of you has particular experience with, or some that you would really recommend? Or maybe just, tell us about one and tell us what you know about it.
Well, I actually studied video game programming. And obviously, when I got out of college, I thought, well, I'm going to get a job in video game programming. And I actually got first as QA tester and then as a producer in a small indie company. And I really liked that. And it was something I didn't thought of it, not even at college, that that could be a path for me and something I would enjoy. So one thing I could say is that don't stick up to something. Something better can come along or something different and you might like it and love it. And that's how my path right now it's going. I'm not doing programming anymore, but I'm definitely going to the more project management type of branch. Yeah.
Um, yeah, like I went to school for game design. That's what I wanted to pursue. But when I got into the industry, I actually started as QA as well. So QA, basically, for folks that aren't aware, is you test video games and you write up bugs. You help the developers improve the quality of their products, and it's actually a really good entry level position. It really helps you see all the sides of video games too. If you aren't really sure what path you want to go on, but you're like, I want to work in games. It's a really, really good way to get your foot in the door and really see what you'd be interested in. So from my path. Like I went into QA. I started at a small indie studio, and because they're small, they were able to promote me internally to game designer, and that's kind of how my career path started. And I did a lot of project management stuff as well. Um, but there's so many other avenues. Like there's a lot of things that you wouldn't even think of that are involved in the industry. Like say you want to do like community outreach stuff, like you want to be involved with managing a community or something. That's a big part of games. Um, there's also the marketing side of it as well. Creating like in the game itself, there's audio, there's narrative design, there's so many things that actually make a game that honestly, if you're interested in one part, there's probably a career for out there for that. And if there isn't, create your own. Like, get invested in what makes you passionate, and I'm sure that you can make that a career.
Yeah, for sure. And in terms of coding, when Mallory and I started, we both had some experience with coding, but we're not experts or technical experts in the field. So we're just coding with whatever we found on YouTube, any YouTube courses, or following the code that we found on the internet. But something that also helped us accelerate our coding because we didn't want to shy away from it, but also we needed to get our game done. What we found was other tools like visual scripting that helped us with the coding and made our life a lot easier and accelerated our development. So we use Unity as our game engine, and one of the tools that we found, the first one was Fungus. It was very easy, just like codes, blocks that you put in and just find a logic. If this happens, this goes here and goes there. And it was very easy, accelerated our development and helped us a lot. And another one that we found in Unity also is Bolt. Is also the same logic. It's just visual scripting and it's by blocks that you connect and just follows the logic that you give to it. So that helped us a lot accelerate our development, and we found it's still a fantastic tool up to date.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really cool just considering how many paths you can take into such like a fun industry. Um Considering what you do, um as people, we've already recommended resources and given some advice, but as these kids are now going maybe through high school and then even university or whatever path they choose to take, um, what sort of skills, I'd say, so soft skills, hard skills, any sort of skills, what would you say people should foster the most?
That's a really good question. I think that one that probably I didn't thought about it too much is teamwork. You will deal with so many people from so many different personalities and also areas. So, teamwork is definitely one of them, and communication. You need to be able to communicate properly, not only for a base of respect on the workplace, but also to transfer your ideas correctly and also understand what ideas you're kind of getting. And if you need to ask more questions, ask them. It's always very welcome, like, oh, what do you mean by doing this? Especially Danny must be very well known of game design. You get a lot of questions, and yeah, I think those two would be the primary ones. Get used to getting into teamwork. You don't have to do it all alone. You have people that will support you and just feel comfortable. That's what we're trying to do, and that's why we're here to get you all comfortable and ready.
Yeah, exactly what Aura said. The biggest skills that I use on the day-to-day is communication. As a designer, we have to be really aware of what everybody is doing, and we have to be able to communicate with different types of people, like Aura said. So, for instance, if you're speaking to someone who is an engineer, they understand the game in a different way than an artist would. So you have to kind of understand how to speak to both of those types of people to be able to clearly communicate your ideas. Another thing that's really important on the designer side is we write a lot of documentation, and that is really where the source of truth of our game comes from. So that needs to be incredibly clear, and it needs to be able to be readable by anyone. So really being able to understand written communication and verbal communication is very, very important. As for other things, like
there definitely is a lot of other skills that are helpful, like having experience with art or having experience knowing some code, like learning how to read that, but it definitely isn't an essential skill that you need. Like the biggest thing is really just communication and just being a nice person. Like it really gets you a long way.
Yeah, I could not agree more. Learning how to work with people is like the most important one. You in the STEM field, in the video game development field, you never do anything alone on your own. I mean, you could, but in order to make the games come to reality, we go a lot faster when we work with people and when we work well with people and we communicate and have a good teamwork and a good team dynamic. That's super important for us to develop the games and make them a reality. And in terms of hard skills, I also think that learning how to learn is very important because there are so many so many resources like Aura and Danny had mentioned before that are out there that are free, that you so many workshops and classes that are free that you can join. But it's also understanding how you learn and what works best for you. For some of us it's reading, highlighting, and making notes. For some other people it's just watching a YouTube video, and for some others they just try things and see where it goes, and that's how they learn. So that will help you also understanding what works best for you and where to go for answers when you need them.
Yeah, awesome. Um, Pivoting a bit, but I guess still considering skills and also transferable skills. Um, I think Sabrina, you do stuff with Airbus Canada, right?
Yeah.
So I guess that's sort of something you wouldn't necessarily like expect when you think video game industry. Um, but how does like what you do or what you learned and what you did with video games, how does that transfer to what you do with Airbus Canada? Or also if you just want to sort of explain what exactly you do there.
Yeah, for sure. So my background is not in video game development. So I went to school at Ryerson University for aerospace engineering and did also my master's there. And right now I'm working at Airbus Canada, who is an aircraft manufacturer here in Quebec, Mirabel, Quebec. And what I do there, pretty much, we oversee the reliability of the entire fleet of aircrafts, the A220. So we see like if they're delayed or or a flight is canceled or there's so many issues with a component, what's happening and how to solve them, and how the skills are transferable with the video game development is the teamwork, and we never do anything alone. So even building a game, designing, troubleshooting a code, and or just trying to figure out what's wrong with the airplane, what was the delay, and what's wrong with the component, and who do we need to talk to solve this. It all comes down to how do we work with people, and that's a transferable skills that it goes both ways. So you never do anything alone, and sometimes it takes a big group of people to come together, say what's happening with the airplane, what's wrong, and we need to look at all this data to figure out to come up with a solution. It's the same way the entire team comes together, we sit together, we start brainstorming, putting ideas together for a game or for troubleshooting, and we're all together giving inputs and communicating, and we all make it happen and to have a product at the end. So that's how those two worlds intersect, how I see it.
Yeah, yeah, that's really interesting, sort of seeing how those do intersect. Um, Maybe Ara and Danny. Um, I mean, we've been talking about like all this stuff that helps you do what you do, but haven't necessarily touched too much on what you actually do. Do you just want to again like sort of say what specific skills you're sort of using, maybe not on a day to day, but with whatever projects you're doing, and maybe just explain a bit about what it is that you're working on right now? So, Ara, you can go first.
Sure. So I'm kind of a game tester. What I do in my day to day is, yes, testing, of course. And that I try to translate it to the developers or engineers, depending on where the issue should be headed. So what we do generally is that we write a ticket for the bug or the error that we're finding, and we try to communicate as much as we can how to find it, what it is that is actually like the error. If we put a video or a screenshot and we send that. I also get in communication with different game teams from EA. For example, FIFA, that's one of the most renowned. And we ask them, like, hey, how can we help you make your game better, you know? Because I'm on the Frostbite side, that means the engine, which is an equivalent to Unity. That's where we're making the games. So we ask them, how can we help them? What is being wrong with our kind of Unity or Frostbite engine? And just that back and forth communication and just getting the issues resolved. You know, if something's not getting resolved, kind of just poke around and be like, hey, somebody should be taking a look at this, or it's actually something that it says designed. You know, sometimes that happens. It's not an error, it's just how it works, and we can probably change it. So that's kind of what I do. I use a lot of Jira, a lot of Confluence for documentation. Obviously, the engine, I just have some knowledge of scripting, stuff like that, that kind of helps me with certain errors, kind of pinpoint what it's wrong, and do a little bit more investigation on our side. So, yeah, that's kind of in basic all to all day.
So my career now is a lot different from when I started. I'm now a manager, so I'm a lead quest designer at Kabam on a project called Disney Mirrorverse. It's currently in soft launch right now. It's available in Canada though. Um, so my role basically is I oversee three other designers, and we work on the quest side of the project, which basically is like any of our encounters or game modes or anything like that. Like we set up all the type of encounters, all the progression in the game. We balance it to make it fair for players and whatnot. But we also touch a lot of other things too. Like we work with economy, and they create rewards that they want to give the players, and we work with them to figure out how that progresses in our game and whatnot. So my day to day isn't really actually working in the project as much as more leading and facilitating those three designers and making sure that um, their careers are going where they want them to be, and making sure that the project is being kept on track. But back when I did more hands-on design stuff, I was working in the Unity engine, creating new features for projects that I worked on before. There's a couple of projects that I worked on from like concept to live. So that whole process was very much invested in Unity, like building these specific features, doing a lot of really quick prototypes as well, trying to build out to prove a concept of a project, and then pushing it out to the world. And basically, I work in mobile games, so a lot of our stuff we look at analytics, which basically is ways that we can track how players are interacting with the game. A lot of the work that I do now is looking at those types of analytics and seeing like, are players able to properly progress, or are they getting stuck at certain places, or um, how much are they spending in the game? Like, what can we do on our end to make that a more seamless process for them if they do spend money in our game, or how can we entice people to do that? We're a business, right? So I'm not going to be shy about that fact that like it is about trying to get people to spend more, but it also is about seeing how people feel about our game and how they enjoy interacting with it and whatnot. Um, yeah, so it's kind of a lot of stuff, but that's where I am in my career, and that's kind of what I do. But definitely when you first get into the industry, you're going to just be working more underneath people, and you're going to be putting features into the game, helping them balance stuff, smaller things like that.
Yeah, thank you. Um, so again, we've been talking sort of a lot about the path that people can take to get to where you guys are now. Um, but maybe just, it doesn't have to be super long, but just a quick summary to give people maybe a more concrete idea of what they can do. Um, do you just want to sort of talk about your schooling to get to where you are now? Like maybe if you took any certain programs or courses in high school, what you did in university, maybe anything like any other programs you took advantage of. Um, we can just do a run through of that.
Sure. I actually did get some coding classes back in high school with Java, and then the last year with HTML, CSS. So that was very helpful in kind of understanding basic stuff and some formatting. Then in college, it was video game programming, and some of the things that really helped me, besides doing the homeworks and the projects and everything, was to get involved with mini game jams that we sometimes did at school or outside, and that kind of really helped me. Those would be the main ones.
Yeah, when I was in high school, I mentioned before, but I did take some HTML classes. I also did, my school had 3D modeling as well, so I took some of those. I also took a just general computer course that taught a lot more advanced computer knowledge. So that was more like how do you build a computer and stuff like that. So less of like games, but those things kind of led into my path on wanting to create games. I took a program at a school that actually no longer exists. It was at a school called the Art Institute of Vancouver. They've now been bought out by another company called LaSalle, but they still offer the same course there. I took game and art design there. The course was like 2.5 years. So after I finished that, I jumped into the industry and got a job. But outside of that, I still try to work on improving my skills. So yeah, I did take some courses on Udemy for learning more C sharp and learning Unity. And I also took like some D DEI courses, like to learn more about just like culture in the industry and like how to improve that. So that's stuff that I still do. Like I still like doing those types of courses.
Yeah, and for me, I had a different path. I went to school for engineering. In high school, I just took the science, which is physics, math, chemistry. Did not have the opportunity to take coding classes in high school, even though I would have loved to. Only my exposure to coding and programming was in school for like university for the classes when they required it. And when we started video game development, we used all of the resources available for free online, even on the gaming engines like Unity even have their own tutorials, and they're really really good. So we spent a lot of time doing every single tutorial that we came across, or path, and we also did all of the YouTube lessons and courses that we could find, to create the video game. So we today we can still continue, even though we have programmers in our team. Today we continue to look for Udemy courses and download them and try to get them for the rest of the team, so we have resources there, as well for us and for the rest of the team. But it's mainly everything was self-taught and looking for everything that we could find solutions in on the internet.
Awesome. Thank you. Um, so a few more questions. Um, this is very much a pivot, but I guess also something to consider for people who want to get into the industry. Um, what is something about your job? And this could be good, this could be bad, this could just be surprising. Um, what is something about your job that maybe you or no one really would expect from it? So this could be in terms of a certain type of work you do. This could be in terms of something that is just sort of vaguely an opportunity that is opened for you, just anything like that. What was a bit of a surprise?
I think something that it's not too clear until you enter the industry is that there's you can be like part of a company or you can be outsourced. So that's like sometimes a big decision. It's a good, bad thing. Depends also on the company and the regulations that they're making. But that means that obviously you might not have the same benefits as somebody that is working on the company, if you're a contractor or something like that. So I think that's something that you could start looking into it. Again, it's not good or bad. It really depends.
I think for me, the biggest surprise was when I was in college,
they don't really teach you like how to be in the industry. So you do learn a lot. Like your first few months when you jump into the industry, it's like so different. So I think the some of the biggest things that I learned right away was the communication stuff. Like in school, we didn't really work too much with other people. Like we would do some group projects, but it wasn't really to the extent that it is in the industry. So that was definitely a big shock to me is like how much people actually do communicate on the day to day and how important it is to always communicate. Um, so I really do think that was like the biggest shock was just like how different that was and I wasn't expecting that because when you think about like the games industry and in general, people who play games too, like a lot of them are a lot more introverted. It's something that they do inside their house, and it's weird to think that like it is a lot of like extroverted qualities that you do need to be successful in this industry. So that was kind of shocking to me, and I think it changed my personality for sure. I was very introverted, and now I would say that I'm much more extroverted.
Awesome. For us, it's a bit different. We're an educational video game company, so it's not for us. It's not the video game, but the getting the games in front in the classrooms. Pretty much is because we have to go and talk to school boards and teachers and educators. So for us, it's more challenging than we anticipated to be. It's not impossible, definitely not, but it's something that we wish we knew before we started, but it's just an aspect of the educational side of thing, and it's just working on with partnering up with school boards and educators that just requires a little bit more of legwork. But other than that, yeah, that would be it from my side.
Thank you. Yeah, that's all really great things to consider. So we just have 3 minutes left here. One last question, a bit of a closing one. What is something that you are really excited to see in the industry in the next maybe 5 or so years? I mean, it's growing so quickly and it's constantly evolving and there's constantly new opportunities. So, what's something you're excited to see, and maybe what sort of environment do you think the people who are now looking to get into the industry will actually end up being in?
Definitely more diverse and a lot of more indie companies. It's really refreshing to see new ideas and new creators. That hopefully it's like that.
Yeah, same. Just more diversity in general. Um, Working with different types of people, it's really cool and seeing like the cool ideas they come up with. That's definitely what I'm interested in seeing. But in general, I really want to see the industry evolve into a place where women and diverse folks feel safe. And right now, it doesn't feel like that at every single company. So I really, really want to see that change in the next few years.
I agree, 100%. Definitely looking forward to see more diversity in the field. Definitely more women in just joining the field as well, having them create video games for by women for women as well, and definitely more educational video games for kids that are out there and accessible for everyone. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Diversity is the key factor here that we all want to see, and we're excited about in the next 5 years.
Yeah, well, you're all helping with that. So, looks like we are almost out of time here. We've got a minute left. I just like to thank you all for joining us today. Huge thanks to the mentors for sharing your time and your experience and your advice and your stories. Um, Everyone in chat, again, thank you. So, next up, I believe you have your closing game show happening on the main stage screen. So, be sure to head back over there and enjoy the rest of your event. Thank you very much.